Okay, hear me out. I know that we're all getting pretty committed to the tank and to the number one draft pick, but think about how funny it's going to be if the Blue Jackets break the Oilers' 13-game win streak tonight. And that's what we're going to talk about on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms. We're over on YouTube and on SiriusXM. My co-host, Aiden Heilson, will be back later this week. So unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it is just me again today. And we're going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers, who have turned their season around, which is really frustrating because I personally think the NHL is more fun and also funnier when the Oilers are bad. Currently, they're on a 13-game winning streak. Previous to this 13-game winning streak, they were 13, 15, and 1 in their first 29 games, I think is how the math works on that. Since then, like I said, they've won 13 straight, and they are still 13 points behind the Vancouver Canucks, who admittedly, 4 games in hand, still, the fact that they're on a 13-game win streak and they have only barely managed to kind of keep up with the pack is just wild. Canucks, a lot of fun. Don't want them to win the cup, but I am rooting for them to go almost all of the way. But we're not talking about the Canucks yet. We're going to talk about them in a week or so when the Blue Jackets play them again. We're going to talk about the Oilers today, who have arrived, which sounds silly, but I feel like almost everyone on the Oilers kind of had a slow start to the season. Like, I remember there being a lot of drama about Connor McDavid being on like a 60-point pace for the first month of the season. And then I believe he missed some time due to injury. He's only missed 2 games so far, so maybe he wasn't as injured as I thought he was going to be. That being said, he has figured it out. He's got 59 points in 40 games, so he's on pace for 120-point season, which I feel like is probably a down season by his standards. And also he's decided that he's not going to score goals anymore, because of his 59 points, 43 of them are assists. But it's Leon Draisaitl that I'm kind of interested in taking a look at, because a lot of people say that he would be nothing without Connor McDavid. And maybe that's true, but he does have 7 points in his last 5 games. He's second on the team in scoring, with 50 points in 42 games, which for those of you who can't do math, much like myself, I worked this out beforehand. That is fully 21 points higher than the highest scoring Blue Jacket right now, who's Johnny Gaudreau, who has 29 points in 45 games. This duo is just unreal. And I can't believe that they haven't yet won anything. It makes no sense. Part of the turnaround, I think, is the fact that their goalies have figured out how to be goalies again. Jack Campbell, I believe, is still down in Bakersfield. He got put on waivers and disappeared. So they've been rolling with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard, both of whom have sub 3 goals against average. Skinner, who, again, miserable start to the season, he's pulled it back together. He's got a .906 save percentage. He's 21, 9, and 1. I would assume that he is the guy that the Blue Jackets will see in this game, but they might also see Calvin Pickard, who has bothered the Blue Jackets in the past. Let's put it that way. This Oilers team is frustratingly good. They've started to figure out their goaltending. McDavid has re-arrived. He wasn't really gone, I don't think, but kind of in the same way people freaked out about Austin Matthews last season when he had a 40-goal season and were like, this is terrible. Connor McDavid with less than 100-point season, I think, means that there's grounds for the sky to be falling in Edmonton, which sounds fully insane. But maybe that's just because the Blue Jackets have never had a player over about 80 points. Just the duality of teams, you know. I'm not worried about this game necessarily. We'll talk about kind of the Blue Jackets side of things in a minute, but I think I finally reached like this weird zen to the season where if we win, I get to be excited because we win a game. If we lose, sure, this might as well happen. The Ottawa Senators have climbed over the Blue Jackets in points percentage. So I believe the Blue Jackets currently have the fourth best odds for not Connor Bedard. That's who. For Macklin Celebrini. The Blue Jackets currently have a 9.5% chance. Also, in fun news, they have exactly as many regulation wins as the San Jose Sharks, who have 26 points on the season. The Blue Jackets have gotten a lot of loser points. They've had 9 overtime and shootout losses in the season, which, again, math hard. I believe that's fully 20% of their games have been shootout losses or overtime losses. That's not great, guys. Anaheim, Chicago, and San Jose are still ahead of them in the draft lottery, but I did one sim on Tankathon, and the Blue Jackets won that first overall pick. So let's just stop the count, etc. So that's kind of where I'm at with this game. Is what I mean. Is I'm not. If the Blue Jackets win, great. I think it'll be friggin' hilarious if the Blue Jackets are the team that end the Edmonton Oilers win streak at 13. Am I expecting it? Not necessarily, but the hockey gods do love to make the Oilers specifically suffer. And it would be just like the Blue Jackets who, with the Canucks the other night. Everyone was like, obviously the Blue Jackets are going to get steamrolled by the Canucks. They're the best team in the league. And the Blue Jackets were like, well, wait a second. What if we don't do that? What if instead we beat the Canucks? So I genuinely wouldn't be shocked to see the Blue Jackets win this game. I am unconvinced that they will, but I think that they should. This should happen just because it's funny and for no other reason. I don't necessarily want the Blue Jackets to win because I am kind of semi-committed to getting another really good draft pick. By which I mean, not necessarily I'm rooting for the Blue Jackets to win games. I just have very little faith in their ability to win games for the remainder of the season. So we might as well get a good draft pick out of how much I've suffered this season. We'll see. But I don't know, man. The Oilers are a really good team that sometimes lose in hilarious ways. And I think this would be the most hilarious way to lose. But that really, really depends on what the Blue Jackets bring to the table in Edmonton tonight, which we'll talk about in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, though, I have got to tell you about Gametime because I don't know about you, but I hate to plan ahead. And when I'm in the States, sometimes I'm like, hey, let's go to the Sharks game tonight. And I hop on Gametime. I hop on a couple of other second-party ticket selling websites. And Gametime always gives me the best offer. So honestly, I don't know why I bother looking anywhere else. It's the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They've got last-minute deals, all-in prices, so no sneaky, extortionate fees like a certain other ticket reselling website. Views from your seat, which I really like, and their best price guarantee, which means if you find tickets in your section and row for less somewhere else, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. the app is so easy to use. Like, I was shocked by how easy to use it is. Like, you find your game, you click the game, you click the seat, you buy a ticket. Done. It takes seconds. It's great. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking about the game against the Oilers tonight, which I want to reiterate, I think it would be really funny if the Blue Jackets won. But looking at how the last couple of games have shaken out, I don't necessarily think it's expected. Well, scratch the necessary. Scratch the necessarily from that. I do not think it is expected the Blue Jackets will win this game. Like I said, Connor McDavid has fully 30 points more than the highest Blue Jackets scorer, which is Johnny Gaudreau, who again is having kind of a down season, but has found his way recently. He's got 4 assists in the last 5 games. Cole Sillinger has 4 goals in the last 5 games. It's really great to see. It's been fun to see Cole Sillinger figure things out again this season. He's got 18 points in 40 games so far, so he's on pace for about a 35 to 40 point season, which is great when you look at last season. I think he had 13 points or something like that. But we'll I keep looking at these two rosters and I keep looking at the standings difference. The Edmonton Oilers have 53 points in 42 games. The Blue Jackets have 37 points in 45 games. The Blue Jackets have a minus 34 goal differential. The Edmonton Oilers have a plus 27 goal differential. The Oilers have the 6th best power play in the league, the 9th best penalty kill, the 7th best face-off percentage, and they score the 4th most goals per game. Conversely, the Blue Jackets are 25th on the power play, 18th on the penalty kill, 25th on face-offs, and 21st in goals for per game. On paper, this team should get steamrolled. And that's honestly kind of what I'm expecting. I'm looking at the lineups that have been going on over the past couple of games. I'm not convinced by them. I don't know if they're planning on doing the same lines as previously. There's nothing on Jeff Svoboda's. He's usually the guy to go to for like practice and lineup stuff. But talked about this in the last episode. The lineup has been less than inspiring in recent games. I think moving Fantilli to the wing was a mistake. I think putting Bouchard in and immediately making him play the most ice time of any forward was a mistake. The Johnson, Voronkov, Marchenko line is fine, but needs tweaking, I think. The 4th line is good, but when your 4th line is the only good line, like that feels like there's bigger problems here, you know? The Blue Jackets have won games like this before, you know? They beat the Canucks. They have beaten the Rangers, who are at the top of the Metropolitan Division. They beat the Bruins, who are at the top of the Atlantic Division, you know? They haven't beaten the Jets yet, but it would, again, be very funny if they managed to beat all 4 teams at the top of their respective divisions while being directly at the bottom of theirs by 11 points. So I know my co-host Hayden Heilshorn, who again not here today, will be back soon, wanted by the end of January the Blue Jackets to have taken their 9-point wildcard fall behind and cut that in half. And what they have done instead is doubled it, I believe. They are currently 16 points out of a wildcard spot. Tampa Bay currently holding that second wildcard with 53 points. Blue Jackets, again, still sitting at 37 points. The Ottawa Senators only 2 points behind them, but they've got 3 games in hand. So, like, the Blue Jackets are probably going to finish the season at the bottom of the East. It's going to be tough to compete with teams like San Jose and Chicago, who's without Connor Bedard for at least another month, I believe. But it's, I don't know, man. Like, I look at this team and I see all of the potential that we could have had, and it's so frustrating. Because on paper, this team should maybe not match up directly against the Oilers because they don't have a McDavid, but in Johnny Gaudreau should be up there in points, and he's having a down year. Adam Fantilli, I think there's a lot of similarities between him and Leon Draisaitl, and if the Blue Jackets get a player like Leon Draisaitl out of Adam Fantilli, I think you take that and you run, The Blue Jackets have a lot of good pieces, and they should be maybe not in a similar spot as Edmonton is in the 13-game win streak and third in the division, but they should have been at least in the conversation for a wild card spot. And now I'm looking at this matchup, and I'm like, God, I can't believe. Well, first of all, I have to stay up. This game doesn't start until 2 a.m. my time. That's how committed I am to this stupid team that keeps failing me. Is I'm going to be staying up to watch this game. At least the first period. If the first period goes badly, I will be going to bed and pretending that the Blue Jackets don't exist for 12 hours. But if the team was good, I would be anticipating this game. This would be a fun matchup. I'd be like, yes, the high-flying Blue Jackets versus the high-flying Oilers, and it's been a disappointment. And it's, again, I'm bummed about it, but the game will happen how it's going to happen. And I guess I should make some predictions about that, which I'll do that in a bit. Actually, I'll do that in a minute. But first, I would like to talk a little bit about goaltending, because that is another decision that Pascal Vincent and his coaching staff are going to have to make, is who do they play in goal? And we'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked on Blue Jackets. First, I've got to talk to you guys about Sleeper, because we're over halfway through the season. I think there's been more lows than highs. There has been a couple of highs, but mostly lows. Regardless of where we are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. They're our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. The app is super easy to use. They've got a bunch of different sports. I like the hockey, obviously, but they've also got NFL, NBA, MLB, college football. They've got a really fun kind of group chat functionality, so you can connect with other fans who you can either celebrate with or commiserate with, depending on how you feel about how the games are going. Entries can be made in under a minute, and all you have to do is pick whether guys like McDavid, Draisaitl, Gaudreau, Fantilli, whether they're going to record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times your money on Sleeper, all you need to do is correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me right, Blue Jackets fans. Predict 8 player stats correctly, and you will win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. So one of the bigger questions for tonight's game is who starts in goal? And I don't know the answer to that, quite frankly, because I think Daniil Tarasov has had some good games this season, and he's had some not so good games this season. He's obviously working back from injury. When he's good, he's really good. When he's off, he's not great. I am just pulling up the goaltending stats for this team. Elvis Merzlikins right now is 8, 9, and 6 on the season. He's got a .905 save percentage and a 3.26 goals against average. Daniil Tarasov is 2, 4, and 2 and has an 875 save percentage and a 409 goals against average. Now, Elvis has played more than 3 times what Tarasov has played so far this season. Tarasov, again, returning from injury, but Elvis had a good game against the Canucks, had a not so good game against the Devils. Tarasov had a couple of poor games in a row. I'm just pulling this up. He had 3 games in a row where he allowed 6 goals on 35 shots against Seattle, 5 goals on 23 shots against Winnipeg, 4 goals on 36 shots against Minnesota. And then before that, he had 2 goals on 41 shots against Philadelphia and 3 goals on 42 shots against Buffalo. So, like, real up and down. So he's probably due for a good game. And the Blue Jackets have talked about how they want to see if Daniil Tarasov can be a future number 1. So they're going to put him in that starter position. However, losing Spencer Martin means they have to be a little bit more careful in terms of what they do with Elvis, because now they don't have 3 goalies to rotate. And I assume that if things continue to go south with Elvis, what's going to happen is they'll trade him and get a goalie back. And whether that goalie is, someone like Jack Campbell, who's also on a big unideal deal. Cal Peterson is another guy who's on a not great deal. Guys like that, or they pick up someone to back Tarasov up and hope for the best. They've got some time to figure it out, but looking at who they should start in this game, I genuinely don't know. I've been thinking about this basically all episode. I was like, I need to pick who I would put in goal, and Tarasov hasn't played since January 13th. So it's been 9 days. That being said, the team has only played 2 games in those 9 days because of schedule weirdness. So I'm not like, oh, he's been sitting for ages, because they've both been sitting for a while. I believe the Blue Jackets played Seattle, had 3 days off, played Vancouver, had 3 days off, played the Devils, and then have had another 3 days off. Their last game was Friday, and it's Tuesday. So that might even be 4 days. So not a lot of hockey happening. There's going to be some rust on there, probably. I might start Merzlikins, honestly. Because I think if you can work it out with Merzlikins and keep him around and have him be kind of a goalie that earns that contract a little more, it gives you more time with Tarasov. And this is not me saying that they should get rid of Tarasov and, play Elvis for the rest of the season, but it's so difficult to throw goalies directly into a starting role. Daniil Tarasov is, I want to say, like 24. Yeah, he's 24 years old. This is his 3rd season with the Blue Jackets. He played 4 games in the first season and was excellent. Played 17 last season and was injured. He was injured in the 21-22 season as well. That's why he only played 4 games. And then it took him a while to work back this season. Played 8 games. Had a couple in the minor leagues as well. He went down for a conditioning stint. But, it's only his 3rd season, and he's never played more than 17 games in a season. So I don't know that that's necessarily a risk that you want to take right now. So I wonder if you start Elvis today and start Tarasov on Thursday. Like, genuinely, that's what I might do, actually. Actually, flip that. I would start Tarasov against the Oilers and then Merzlikins against the Flames. Unless Tarasov pulls out, like, a 50-save shutout or something, and I'm just going to knock on wood, because that word is unlucky. But honestly, I think it behooves the team to work them as a tandem. Tarasov gets more games than the average backup. Elvis gets to rest a little bit, but you're keeping him happy by giving him enough games. I know he said that he doesn't want to be a backup, but frankly, I think he's got to earn his starting role back. He's been, of the goalies that they have at the minute, he's been the best of them. Jet Graves has been good, but very, very small sample size. So yeah, I think you run them as a tandem, and you see what the conversation is like at the trade deadline. See if anyone wants to pick up Elvis for a playoff run or whatever. And if not, revisit this in the off season. I don't know that a buyout makes a ton of sense for Merzlikins. I feel like I looked this up very recently just because I was curious. I'm just pulling up the buyout calendar from or the buyout tool from Cap Friendly, which is always fun to look at. If you buy out Elvis Merzlikins, you can. Where is it? I have lost it. But my point here is you have more to work with if you keep Elvis happy is my point here. I found it. I found the buyout. If they buy him out this season, then they will be paying him 1.75 million a year until 2030. That's, I don't know, man. That I feel like for a guy he's got 3 years left, 2 years left on his deal after this year, or you can pay him for the next 5 seasons. I don't know that that's cost effective. The cap is going up, but they've got a lot of guys that they need to fit into that space. Ken Johnson wants a new contract. Cole Sillinger wants a new contract. Chinakhov wants a new contract. And then, Jiricek is going to want a new contract in that time. Fantilli's going to want a new contract in that time. There's a lot of moving pieces going on here. If you can trade him and maybe retain some salary, maybe you can do that. But I don't know that it makes sense. Right now, I think you finish the season, you see what you have, maybe re-explore a buyout in the offseason, maybe re-explore trades in the offseason when the cap goes up and teams have a little bit more room. But to kind of backtrack what I was saying about who starts tonight, I think you start Tarasov tonight. You see how he does. But I think both goalies are on a pretty short leash at the minute. I think Tarasov is probably on a slightly longer one based on how he allowed 5 goals against Winnipeg and then allowed 6 goals like 2 days later on about the same amount of shots. So we'll see. But start Tarasov, play Elvis against Calgary, play Tarasov against Vancouver, and then Elvis against Seattle. And then Tarasov against St. Louis. And then they go into the All-Star break, which I think everyone is looking forward to, including me, just because I will get to watch some All-Star hockey and not my team doing their best to make me miserable. Anyway, predictions. I could go with my gut, or I could go with my head, or I could go with my heart. There's 3 kind of options here. 2 of them have the Blue Jackets losing. So I think I'm going to go with the third funniest option, which is I think the Blue Jackets, let's say a 4-3 shootout win for the Blue Jackets. And let's look at, in terms of goal scoring, Cole Sillinger is the hot hand at the minute, but I think I'm going to go with Kent Johnson. He loves to score big goals in Rogers Arena. It's either Rogers Arena or Rogers Place in Edmonton. I can never remember which one it is, but he loves to score big goals there. He scored the gold medal winning goal for the World Juniors there. He scored the overtime winner the last time the Blue Jackets were in town. So I'm going to go ahead and say I think Ken Johnson is going to score a goal tonight. And if I had thought to text my co-host and get his predictions, I would have done, but I didn't. So, oops. But that's all I've got for today. Tomorrow, we will be back at it. We will be breaking down tonight's game against the Oilers. Hopefully, we'll be breaking down an incredibly funny and stupid game because I feel like the Blue Jackets haven't had a really stupid game in a minute. And I think I deserve one, frankly, even if no one else does. But I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email us at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every single day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms, on YouTube and on SiriusXM. Make sure you check out the game on SiriusXM as well. Bob McElligott does a great job with the radio play-by-play for the Blue Jackets. So go to SiriusXM and you can find his take on how the Blue Jackets are doing, which, if nothing else, is always honest. Thank you once again for listening. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.